the globe, we have many.
Welcome back to Mice TV for the third and final broadcast from Da Nang, Vietnam at the Cake and Pie Expo 2.0. We are back with our very own Matt Young, CEO of Media Mice, for a conversation with Dr. Huy about one of the most exciting developments in the fight against myopia, atropine sulfate eye drops.
Well, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Dr. Huy. Thanks for joining me on the show today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about myopia and the latest with atropine sulfate topical eye drops for childhood myopia. These are being launched in Vietnam as Myatro. Now, so the cat is out of the bag, and with the myopia epidemic, it is now one of the hottest topics in eye care. What are some of the major reasons for the spread of myopia?
Yeah. First of all, thanks you all to having me, and thanks Mice Media for having me today. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. The rise of myopia prevalence is now all around the world, especially in Asia, Southeast Asia. And myopia is suggested to result from a complex multifactorial interplay especially between the genetic factors and environmental factors. And especially, I think that one of the most important environmental factors include the significant lack of outdoors activities and the use of so much of digital handheld screen now. For example, the iPad, iPhone, there's too much for the kid now. So as soon as the kid tend to use more the digital screen, they tend to significantly reduce the time outdoors. But we all know now there's so many evidence proven that for every day, if we can increase the time outdoor over than 2 hours per day, this is a protective factors to protect the kids from developing myopia.
That's fascinating. Well, why do you think children in particular are seeing an alarming increase in myopia?
In general, myopia mainly happens in the young age, and there's so many evidence now showing that the age of onset of myopia in the children tend to be younger than before. And then the myopia will progress over years, and before reaching the stability at the years of about 16 to 18 years old. But there are still some numbers about like up to 10% of the population that still have the progression of myopia even after 18 years old. So then the kids needs to be followed up over time. And the pace of progression has been suggested to be faster at the younger age than the older age.
So, Dr. Huy, what lifestyle and environmental factors in the lives of children are contributing to the rise in pediatric myopia?
I think that the two most common causes, like I did mention above this, the first is the significant lack of times outdoor, and because that especially in the Asia countries like us, we tend to live in a small house, not so much time for the kids to go outdoor, and especially we just went through the 2 hard year of COVID, with so much of lockdown restriction and so much of social distancing restriction. So then the kids has to move from studying at school to working online. Therefore, they tend to have more time on the screen time. But you know that recently even the WHO also have a report to suggest just have a limit time for the screen time for the kids for the certain age groups.
You know, COVID presented its own unique challenges to the myopia mess, and post-COVID is getting even worse for myopia, we hear. What effects from COVID do you think are accelerating the advance of myopia?
Yes. In fact, there are so many publications over the last years showing that the kids tend to progress myopia much faster than before. I think that the two most important factors are because that the kids has a significant lack of time outdoors due to the lockdown restriction in many countries. Even that in Vietnam is like the total lockdown for over 2 months, during the COVID, and like the not the total, a partial lockdown for another 3 months. So that's why, and then the kid has to move from working at the school to working online and studying online. And then some of the kids also, because that for the handheld screen, the screen is smaller, and then the kids needs to move it closer to their eyes, and it could also affect the progression.
Well, fortunately, we're seeing a lot of new drugs come onto the market, and the most promising is atropine sulfate, marketed in Vietnam as Myatro.
Yeah.
The most famous studies on this are the LAMP and ATOM studies, and both are studies with atropine sulfate. So let's take a look at the LAMP study first. Now, in this study, we found this chart showing change in axial length at varying levels of atropine. So what stands out for you here?
I think that there are two great studies showing about the information about the low concentration atropine. The first one has to be the ATOM one. But then, because with the development of myopia control treatment now, all the clinicians tend to move towards the low concentration atropine. Let's say, so therefore, LAMP studies show much more update data on the clinical trials and in the clinical practice for the clinicians like us. For LAMP study, this is the first ever randomized control trial for the use of 3 different concentration of atropine, 0.01, 0.025, and 0.05. This is 2 years. This is a 2 years data, but we can see that it was dose dependent. For the blue lines is the progression of the axial length of from 0.05, which is the less progression, and the red one is for 0.025, and the yellow one is for the 0.01, and the gray one is for control group. But for the second year, you can see that the gray one, when it switch over, because that the switch over group, it means that so after the first year of control with no treatment, only a placebo, it was switched to the 0.05. You can see that a significant effect of the low concentration at 0.05%.
Now I hear we have another chart here, also from the LAMP study. Now, this is all in a different light. We've got spherical equivalent in this one, so more interesting things going on, don't you think, Dr. Huy?
Yeah, interesting things is it is correlate with the previous chart, because this one is for spherical equivalent for the prescription, and the previous one is for the axial elongation. This one also showed the significant dose-dependent effect. So lower the dose, the effect is less, and higher the dose for 0.05, you can see that the progression over 2 years is only about half of diopters. It's still good enough, and it's so great for the kids.
Now let's talk a little bit more about your experience with atropine sulfate Myatro. Can you share some of your clinical experience with the drug?
So I feel so good for the clinic, for the market of Vietnam, and for the myopia control treatment in Vietnam, because now we have all the low concentration, let's say 0.01, 0.025, and 0.05. Many choice for the kids for better treatment for them. But then for our team conduct a clinical trial in Ho Chi Minh City using 0.01, 0.02, and 0.03%. It showed that less than 0.03%, the kids tend to have tolerable side effect. But more than that, the kids might not tolerate the side effect of the use of atropine. But in fact, the kids tend to have a large reserve of compensation. The better you have a good communication to the caregivers and to the parents, and the better that you can talk to them, explain to them how the treatment can go, and then they can understand and they can cooperate with you, and even that the kids also can adapt up to 0.05% with no issue, with no needs of some kind of photochromatic lens or progressive glasses.
Well, I have I just need to interrupt because we're about ready to go to a video, but I have really good news for the Vietnamese market. Atropine eye drops are being marketed as Myatro, and let's take a look at their newest advertising spot. Thank you.
Yeah.